Welcome to Senior to Seniors, the podcast where real life experience meets real world guidance for the second half of life. I'm your host. I'm Jim Mazziotti, realtor, coach, and longtime advocate for helping people make confident decisions as they age. Today's conversation is one I believe every senior and every family helping a loved one needs to hear, and especially at this time. Medicare is one of the most important decisions you'll make, yet it's also one of the most confusing between nonstop advertising, unsolicited phone calls, and pressure to switch plans quickly. It's easy to feel overwhelmed or unsure if you're making the right choice. My guest today is Paul Barrett, an independent Medicare expert with more than 15 years in the insurance industry and the founder of the Modern Medicare Agency. Paul has helped thousands of seniors navigate Medicare with clarity and confidence, and he's built his career on simple but powerful principles of education comes before enrollment. Paul is also the author of Medicare Mastery Unlocked, your roadmap to maximizing benefits and minimizing confusion, a plain English guide written specifically to help seniors avoid costly mistakes, understand their options, and make Medicare decisions without pressure or fear. So today, we're going to talk honestly about Medicare Advantage, enrollment periods, misleading marketing, and how to know whether someone is truly working in your best interest. If Medicare feels confusing, or if you just want peace of mind knowing you're making the right choices, this is a conversation you won't want to miss. So settle in. This is Senior to Seniors, and let's get started. Welcome, Paul. I'm so glad you're here.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Jim.
You know, Paul, I fit this with a T. If it feels confusing or if you want peace of mind, this conversation's for you. And that's why I invited you here. And I don't think I'm alone in being confused and always wondering if the plan that I have is the right plan and if I'm with the right company. And so I think you're probably the guy that we all need to hear from. Um, Tell us a little bit about you. I'd like to know more about you.
All right. Well, like you said in the intro, I've been doing this more than 15 years. This is actually my 18th year this month. Uh, and never thought I would get here, to be honest with you. Always had a different path. I thought I was going to be a professional athlete, but this is what happened, right? But I took that competitiveness that I had and I turned it into my Medicare business. And by that, I mean, I never want to be status quo. I always like to be better than everybody else. And in this field, right, you can call 100 agents. They're all going to say, hi, I'm an independent agent. I can get you blah, 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 blah. They are immediately going right into the conversation of, I have something for you. I'm going to sell you something. I'm going to enroll you. Whereas I just don't believe in that. I believe you can't make a good decision if you don't understand what part A is, what part B is, and what your other two options are, right? I mean, how do you just trust a complete stranger? I'm a complete stranger to you. You just met me. You're just going to take my advice because I have an insurance license? To me, that was just kind of crazy. And I noticed a lot of agents were very lazy.
Yeah.
They just really didn't go that extra mile. Whatever plan seemed to fit somebody's needs would take the back seat to somebody that was paying maybe $50 extra commission if there was a bonus in the office or something really silly.
Yeah.
So that's really why I got into it. I found that really appalling. My father, many years ago, he was diagnosed with cancer and ended up getting on Medicare due to disability. This is what really opened my eyes to everything. Because at that time, I was a financial planner. I did a lot more life insurance. I did have my health insurance license for long-term care, but I never really did much with health insurance.
Yeah.
As he was getting into Medicare, he was hearing all these weird things, and he was asking me, can you take a look at this? Can you take a look at this? And I started looking at it, and I was like, well, that's crazy. Why would they want to put you on a plan like that with such a high maximum out of pocket when you're probably not even, I mean, to be morbid, you're not even going to live much longer than 8 months.
Yeah.
You want to eliminate as many medical bills as possible while you're trying to extend your life. These policies just aren't right for you. And it turned out We live in New York. It's a guaranteed issue state. There's only New York, Maine, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. Four of us in the whole country that are guaranteed issue. The rest of you guys have different rules. So when you start Googling things, it's very easy to get confused if you live in one of these four states where I can get a policy if I have cancer. I'm smoking cigarettes while I'm doing it. I'm shooting up my heroin, filling out the application. You get it. It's obnoxious, but they cannot turn you down. As long as you can pay a premium, you get a Medicare supplement.
Hmm.
So that's what he needed, and nobody wanted to give it to him. And when I peeled back the layers of the onion, I found out it was because Medicare Advantage plans were paying much more money to the agents back then. So it was a commission thing.
Yeah.
So we're all in business. Everybody wants to make money.
Yeah.
But to me, that's just not the right way to do it. So that's what really got me into it. Once that happened, my father passed away, and I said, you know what? There's a lot of other people I've spoken to that are confused. I'm going to get into this. And that's really what happened. I mean, I haven't looked back since 2007. I've really enjoyed the journey because you meet so many interesting people in this. And you have to be a people person because we don't make a lot of money. If
Yeah.
I tell you of a Medicare Advantage plan, whoop-de-doo. I get $25.90 a month as long as you're my client. Nobody's running away to a tropical island with that, right? I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
So why would I steer you in the wrong direction for $25.90? It just blew my mind that people were doing stuff like that. It just doesn't make sense, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Uh, so I started doing educational seminars and workshops and things like that at local libraries. And they just kept filling up and getting more and more and more and more people just kept coming. So then they started saying, well, can you do a webinar? Because we can't get everybody, to see you. So then it
Yeah.
grew to webinars. And I never realized that Social Security and Medicare, the two that are in charge of our Medicare, have no clue what they're talking about when it comes to Medicare. I can give you dozens of stories of people
It's
that call
it's
Medicare.
scary. It's just plain scary.
They ask a question and then they get the wrong answer. And then they speak to me and now they're like, well, who's right? I just called Medicare. Medicare should be right. But the bottom line is, if you find a good independent agent, there's lots of them out there. Unfortunately, there's probably more that aren't good agents. They're lazy. But if you find a good agent, you're going to find somebody that really cares because they understand it's all about relationships. I have clients that have been with me for 18 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's because if they ever call and have a problem, a question, concern, I don't even care if it's a Sunday. It drives my wife nuts. But I'll pick up the phone because I know Jim's not going to call me on a Sunday unless there's a real problem. So if I can help him out, ease his mind, that's what we do. So the whole Medicare journey for me was very rewarding in the fact that the average person, I could sit here and talk about it for hours. And at the end, they're just like, oh, what
Hmm.
did you just say? They don't
Hmm.
even remember any of the co-pays.
Hmm.
Many Medicare Advantage plans, if you guys watch commercials on television, you always see zero, 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 zero. Everything is zero. That was my first wall that I had to break through with clients in the beginning. There was some excellent plans 18 years ago for $0. You can go to a hospital, have a back surgery, be out in 10 days, and it would cost you $500.
Hmm.
Pretty,
Hmm.
pretty darn amazing. And it was for $0. And everyone was like, well, that good things aren't cheap and cheap things aren't good. It can't be that way. I got to get a supplement. I got to get a supplement. And eventually people started to see more and more of it. The supplements are going up and up and up in price. And it becomes a thing where, yeah, we have two options, but for a lot of folks, they really only have one because they can only afford one. The supplement plans are fantastic for certain people. Definitely have nothing against them. And they make my job super easy, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no network, there's nothing for me to do as far as providers. Your doctors either accept it or don't.
Hmm.
Now we just have to work on which plan is going to be most affordable for you, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Hmm. So, Paul, you're licensed in all states. Tell me about licensing for someone like you.
Yeah, currently I'm licensed in 36 states. I used to be licensed in all 50, but as years have gone on, I really never spoke to people in certain states, and I was like, it's kind of
Okay.
silly paying double fees, one for me as the agent, one for me as the agency, and so I let a few of them lapse. But I do quite a bit of business in the states that I'm in now. I'm popular there. I have lots of followers that have transplanted from New York all over the place. And I did work for some really huge Medicare companies in call center style. And
Hmm. Hmm.
so when I was doing that, I got to meet people all over the country. And that was my favorite part about it, because you could talk to somebody in Iowa 1 minute, then I'm in Minnesota, and when you start helping people after they're confused, they just all of a sudden the wall comes down and they're like, thank God, I've been trying to get the answer to these questions. I'm looking here, I'm looking there. I see three different answers. I'm in this forum. I did call Social Security. They said I can have a telephone appointment in 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fortunately, we
Yeah.
have timelines, and 3 weeks doesn't work for everybody. I might need my insurance in a couple of days,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because my
Mm-hmm.
deadline's coming up. And yeah, it's my fault I waited, but I didn't realize Medicare has Part A, Part B, Part D, Part C, etc.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize till they get there, because why would you? I've
So
never heard about it.
your license, of course, my podcast goes across the country, and actually, like many podcasts on major platforms, goes across the world. I'm in Texas. Are you licensed in Texas for my
Yeah,
particular
absolutely.
line?
I
Okay.
do quite a bit of business in Texas. I love Texas.
Yeah.
Great
So
state, got lots of plans.
yeah, so tell us about your book. Your book is on my screen for those that are watching on YouTube, for those that aren't watching or are listening on something other than YouTube. Your book is called Medicare Mastery Unlocked: Your Roadmap to Maximizing Benefits and Minimizing Confusion. Tell us about your book and why you wrote the book, and why you think it's important for people to have.
Yeah. So two reasons I wrote the book. One, I just wanted to have something that I could give to people at seminars that I was seeing. I would send them to people that attended webinars, because when you go to the Medicare guides and a lot of other people's books, you're getting a lot of opinion. You're not going to find my opinion anywhere in that book. It's all facts, and it's all non-jargon. It's trying to break everything down as simple as possible without steering you in one direction or another. Because I don't honestly believe there's any one best plan for anybody. Lots of people like Medicare Advantage plans. Lots of people hate them. Lots of people like supplements. Lots of people can't afford them. So you have to have options, right? The more options for us as a consumer, the better it's going to be. So I really created a book, a lot of real life cases in there, pro tips, things to pay attention to, downloadable lists and things like that. So you can have a checklist and make sure you don't miss any enrollment periods, things like
Right.
that. Just very, very simple stuff. But if you go to Medicare.gov, the government website that they want you to go to, there's over 5,000 pages on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of really smart people that would never be able to understand it, including myself. Some of those pages I wander upon and I'm like, why do they even have this? Why is this public? It's just crazy jargon all over the place. And it's supposed to be for the average Medicare consumer. So I wanted to make it simpler.
Yeah.
Medicare guide from the Medicare and You guide that they send out to everybody, it is so vague. It doesn't really go over anything. And it might make you think, if you just look at a plan on paper, this is the best plan. So I wanted to make sure in the book I made it clear that you really can't look at things on paper. It's kind of like sports teams, right? On paper, the Mets look like they were supposed to be really good last year. The Yankees look like they were supposed to be really good last year. But what happened? Nothing. They didn't go anywhere. And that just happens sometimes, right? Looking good is not the same as being good. So if you have a plan that's got really low copays, but there's no providers in your area, you can't find your orthopedic, your neurologist, your cardiologist, because there's only a handful of them, and
Yeah.
you don't travel 18 miles to go see one, that's a problem. Who cares if you're getting $700 worth of dental if you can't see your doctor when you feel sick, right? So
Yeah.
that's one of the main things that we went over in the book, is just to make sure that you're being, smart about your decision and saying, okay, what's really important to me? My doctors, are they really important? Or if you don't care, then that's fine. Just
Mm-hmm.
understand, not
Mm-hmm.
all plans are created equally, and the network is really the main difference between a plan, right? So one plan could be a little bit more expensive but have fantastic network, and then you could look at another plan right next to it, and I can have a client that's absolutely in love with it because they love that they're going to pay $15 when they see a specialist. They're getting some over-the-counter benefits and et cetera and things like that. But that's far and few between, believe it or not. Everybody wants those benefits, but they want it with the biggest network they can possibly have, because let's face it, as we get over 65, we're more likely to visit a doctor. So the book, like I said, is really designed for the average person to be able to skim through it and get some valuable tips without, being like, oh my God, this book has got so much information. It's really super, super structured, basic to help you go from A to Z and understand. And at the end, say, you know what? I think I can choose my own plan.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you keep it simple, so you don't have to be a rocket scientist to be able to understand the book. And it's available on Amazon, so it's there for anybody to grab, and I think it's a great resource. Um, Paul, talk about enrollment periods. I know, when we first communicated with each other, you brought to my attention the next enrollment period for those that have, as I understand, you can straighten it out for me, with Medicare Advantage, is March 31st. So I wanted to make sure we got this thing done. So for at least those you watching or listening before March 31st, we'll have a little time to be able to work some magic on what you're doing. So talk about the enrollment period and those kind of things that we need to know about right now.
What's very interesting about this enrollment period is one, it's created only for people that have Medicare Advantage plans. So if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, you got one last chance up until March 31st to make a change. Most agents don't like to tell you this because we just finished the annual election period where most agents, especially newer ones, just enrolled 50 to 100 people on a plan and they don't want anybody to know that there's a chance to switch off that plan, right? They don't
Yeah.
want to switch off the plan because then they don't get paid. They're going to get a little money sent to their bank, and then all of a sudden, a couple of days later, they're going to see it taken right out of the bank. So a lot of agents are a little scared to bring this up when, number one, we're not supposed to market during this time, right? So you're not supposed to call anybody that has Medicare and say, "Hey, how's your Medicare Advantage plan going? Do you like it? Would you like to see if we can get you something better?" It's really for the consumer. That's what Medicare made this for. So why would they do it? Number one, everybody's miserable during the annual election period now because you said at the beginning of the show, unsolicited phone calls,
Yeah.
bags of direct mail. Your email box is filling up. If you clicked on an ad somewhere online, that ad's following you around all day long, right? And you constantly start second guessing yourself. Well, do I have the best plan? Do I
Mm.
have the best plan? And then some people say, you know what? I'm tuning out. I don't want to care. My plan worked for me great last year. I'm just going to sit and that's it. Those people that just sit, unfortunately, if you didn't review the new coverage, which most people don't, then you could find out you have a new deductible, a provider might not be in network. So it's kind of like a safety net for those people that were saying, I didn't want to be bothered with it. You get one more chance to fix your problem. Or you wanted to try something new and then you find out 2 months in, you know what? I want to go back to the old plan because I like the way that worked.
Man,
So
it's so confusing, Paul. I don't know how you keep it straight. Um, I don't know how you do it. Just from what I know, let me see if I can bring up a screen that I think might help people. So this is what you do, and for those again watching on YouTube, and if you're not, go to YouTube, go to my YouTube channel. It's jimmaziotti.com. You'll be able to find it. But this is what you do. You really, there's 6 things that I saw that grabbed my attention. You help people understand Medicare, so you make it simple, right? You've done that with your book. You do it when people work with you. You compare plans. So people that are confused with all the ads, with all the mail that we've been getting, and I'm no different, they can compare, the Medicare Advantage plans and Medigap and so forth with you if they work with you. You do a personalized review. You help people avoid mistakes, and that's what I'm scared of. And I think I'm pretty normal. I think, I'm a pretty normal 71-year-old that's married. I worry that I don't have the right plan and that something might happen and someone's going to say, guess what, Jim, you're not covered. You don't have the right plan. You help people save money. And as you said before, even answering the phone on Sunday or at night, I would imagine, you provide people with ongoing support. So how is this different? I mean, there's 6 things right here that you pointed out that seem to me that provide people everything they need, especially confused people like me, by just having a consultation with you. Is that where people would start with you, by just giving you a call or going on your website? And by the way, your website is going to be in my show notes. So if people are have joined me. Your website is paulbinsurance.com. That's paulbinsurance.com. And you can pull up the same picture that I posted here. What is the process? I wanted to get to this before we get to the end, and we're not near the end yet. But
Yeah, yeah, of course.
what do people? What's a step? I think I just need to talk to somebody. Is that?
Yeah, that's the first step. I mean, you decide that you want help, and I like to do things over the phone, through Zoom, in person, all the above, depending on how it works. But in the beginning, a good phone call or Zoom call is perfect. Keeps you in the comfort of your own home or office, wherever you could be, so you don't feel pressured at all. I
Yeah.
think that's really the most important thing. And then you and I get an idea of what's going on. Everybody's a little bit different with their Medicare knowledge. Everyone could be in a different phase of life too. We have different needs, different budgets. More and more people are working past, 68, 70 years old now because of Social Security, right? We don't get full Social Security anymore at 65.
Yeah.
So that causes a lot of people to continue working, and it causes so many late enrollment penalties because people don't realize you have a fantastic job, your employer is amazing. You only have 15 employees at the company, and he's giving you great insurance. So why would I get on Medicare? I love my insurance and I don't pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get on it because Medicare has a rule. If you work for a small group of 20 or less employees, you have to. That's their rule. They want everyone to participate, right? So it's unfortunate. You could have the best insurance in the world. If you're not in a group that's over 20, you're going to have a penalty eventually when you do enroll in Medicare. And a lot of folks don't realize stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, it really is, we can just go back and forth with all this stuff. The most important thing is you and I get on the same page, understand where you're at with your education. When do you need to start? Do you even need to start? You know how many people, I mean, I know most agents would never do this, and I'm not trying to brag, but I tell people not to enroll all the time when they're in a good situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I get phone calls 3, 4 years later, and it's amazing. These people hold on to my information and they're like, hey, remember 3 years ago? I'm finally going to retire. I'm 70 now, whatever it is. And it's awesome because a lot of people double dip. They'll keep their group insurance and then they'll get on Medicare because they thought they had to. And now they're paying for something that's not even helping them.
Yeah.
And it's just extra. It's just extra money coming out.
Yeah.
Not many people I work with have extra money they just want to donate to the government in particular. Rather give it to somebody in need than the government, right?
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. So we get to know each other. Then we move on to your important things. We're going to discuss your doctors if they're important to you. Most people, I would say, probably 90% are going to say, I don't want to change my doctors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Prescriptions. Most of us, if we're taking a prescription, it's daily. So we got to make sure if you're taking something every day, it's got to be on your plan's formulary. And you want to know things like if you're taking a particular drug, some plans have particular formularies where they might make you go through step therapy before they'll give you like an Eliquis or something that's more expensive. They want to make you take every cheap drug possible before they say, okay, Jim, now you can have your Eliquis. Now that we made you throw up and have all kinds of bad stomach aches and everything else, you prove to us you can't handle those. We'll give you Eliquis now. You need to know about stuff like that. Quantity limits. Some people are used to with group health insurance. I could always get 90-day supplies. I like to get 90-day. Medicare is very strict on a lot of different drugs where you can't get 90-day supplies. So you need to be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to order it every single month, whether you do it through the mail or you have to go to the pharmacy. So we go through those types of things first and then get a kind of tolerance for, what's your lifestyle like? Are you someone that's going to be traveling a lot? There are some great Medicare Advantage plans that'll help you travel all throughout the country. But if you're somebody that's going to be living in an RV, I have several clients that do this. They travel across country back and forth to family, and they just spend the whole year going back and forth. Then Medicare Advantage plan's probably not going to be the best bet for you. We need to know this right away before you say, oh, I saw that commercial. This plan looks so great and blah, blah, blah. Once again, it's the great on paper thing, but it's not going to actually be functional for you as you're driving through the beautiful countries, state after state after state. You can be like, oh, no doctors, you don't accept it. Oh, you guys don't have well care here. You guys don't have Aetna here. Oh, no, what am I going to do? And you're scrambling. So we want to make sure none of those pitfalls happen.
Yeah.
Once we get an idea from that, then we start looking up all the information. I'll look up all your prescriptions to make sure we find the plans that are going to give you the lowest copays and out of pocket. give you the least amount of stress when you're trying to get the prescription, because sometimes some of those extra steps aren't worth saving $5 a month. If you can get it $5 more, but not have to go through quantity and step therapy and all that other stuff, then it makes sense. Most people would choose that. We find the plans that are going to match up to your needs and likes, and we put them on the screen side by side or across the kitchen table, whatever it may be. And then we start going over them together. I try and educate everybody to the point to see which way you're going to pick first. I'm never going to put a loser on the table. Sometimes customers will say, "Oh, what about this plan?" And I'll tell them straight up, they 2 stars, looks like they're on their way out, terrible customer service. If you want to get it, you can, and I'll actually ask them to sign a waiver saying that Paul recommended I did not get this, but he will help me when I need to change it. But for the most part, after we have a good conversation, you're going to put three options up there in most areas, and people will find the plan they like, and then I'll explain. Here's the pros to that Humana plan. Here's the cons to it. Here's the pros to Anthem. Here's the pros to Aetna, and you go back and forth and kind of guide people through that situation. And then from there, everything else is real easy. You ask a few questions. I fill out the application. We go over it together to make sure there's no misspellings, no mistakes, and then it gets submitted. And then after that, I'm following up to make sure it goes through, because you'd be surprised how many agents submit applications and don't follow up. What happens then? All you have to do is make one little mistake. You could have a junior and a senior in your family, and if you didn't put that down, guess what? An application could get denied, but you're not going to get that letter for 3 weeks to find out you were denied. Now what do? You have no coverage, so you have to scramble. So all these little things need to happen. Somebody needs to follow up a couple of times within the first 10 days to make sure that application gets processed. They should always be processed maximum 10 days. And if they're not, then it's my job to get on the phone, because I'm not going to get paid, right? I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, but agents are not allowed to charge you fees. So if anyone ever asks you for a fee, you just hang up the phone, slam the door in their face, tell them to go away. You're either an agent or you're an advisor, right? So if you're an advisor, that's the person that tells you, "Oh, I did this comparison, check out this plan, go ahead and enroll in it. Here's their phone number." And that's all they do. There's no customer service, there's no follow-up, and they'll charge you a fee up front for that. Some people like that. If you do, fantastic. But if you want an agent, someone that can help you with the customer service, appeals, silly things like I lost a card, can't find a cardiologist in my area on the plan, can you help me? Those are things where agents really come in. Every single plan, my God, has a different provider directory. And for some people, I think it's absolutely nuts. You can have a company like United Healthcare, the largest company, right? Every single plan has a different provider network, and they could have 10 plans in your county, right? So when you put a name in, if I put Jim Mazziotti in there, oh, look, United Healthcare is accepted. Boom, go. But not that plan, not the PPO, blah, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. So you need to make sure every single little thing like that is all aligned. So we do that. We'll make sure all your doctors are in. And if they're not, we're going to explain to you. Sometimes it happens. There's doctors that don't accept Medicare Advantage plans, and people need to know that. Doesn't make Medicare Advantage plans bad, but depending where you live, there are some specialists that say, we don't want to deal with it. And you need to know that up front, not be surprised. And lots of agents love to tell people, well, get a PPO, Jim, because if you get a PPO plan, you can go to any doctor that accepts Medicare. Guess what, Jim? If you have no insurance, you can go to any doctor that accepts Medicare. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
If the doctor doesn't accept a plan, that means they're not going to submit the claim, and you're still going to owe them money. Right? Will you get reimbursed? Yeah, possibly. You're going to have to submit the claim, and you're probably going to have to pay a lot more than you would have if you stayed with somebody in network. And the other thing that you have to worry about is, what if you're sick? If it's a one-time deal, submitting a claim is not a big deal. But if you're sick, who wants to submit claims every month and keep following up to see if we're getting the money? Not everybody has an advocate living with them, a spouse or somebody to take care of that stuff. So that's another thing that, God forbid, you make a choice like that. We do help you with claims. I love doing appeals. I know agents look at me like I'm crazy, but I love when I win an appeal. To me, it's like being a lawyer, a Medicare lawyer.
Yeah.
What do you mean you're not going to pay for that? Oh, God, let's go. And we write the letter, and then they deny it. And then we write the second letter. And most of the time, if you appeal, I don't care what company it is, probably about 85% of them will get approved on the second time. And I've never been denied on the third try. So message to all the consumers out there, if you get your claims denied, you got to appeal. If you appeal 3 times, I'm pretty confident if you write the right stuff in there, you will get your coverage, which is very important because they
Yeah.
know the average person is going to give up. That's why they deny.
Yeah. Well, Paul, listening to you, I didn't know someone like you existed. Someone that would help me with all those things that you talked about. Uh, when my wife and I went to get insurance, went to do this, we went blindly. I don't even remember how we did it, but we didn't have someone like yourself that has multiple plans. How many different companies do you represent? Can you represent?
Currently, I have 42 right now.
Okay, so
Yeah, which is
it,
a lot. Most agents don't have more than like 15, and that's because unless you're going to get the local regional carriers, which a lot of people don't want to do. Little known fact, which makes a lot of people not want to do Medicare. We take a national certification, and every single Medicare Advantage company or Part D company that we work with, we have to take another certification. Some of those tests, they make them ridiculously easy because they want agents. However, it's still time. So I have to take 42 tests plus my national test every year. And I do it because so many of these local companies, they're really trying hard. They give the most comprehensive customer service. They're super helpful to the clients. So if you could find a match for somebody that doesn't have to have United Healthcare or Anthem, a company that they've heard of before, they're going to get way better customer service. They're going to save money 9 times out of 10, and they're just going to have a much better overall Medicare journey.
yeah, and so
Like individual companies.
you can represent more than 40 different companies, but I'm guessing there's three or four companies that stand out that are the best to work for that you found is, and I know it's every situation is different, and every circumstance is different. Do you find that there's just a handful of companies that you feel comfortable
Well,
with?
you're going to find nationwide that the big guys are always going to be prominent. They just are. Depending on what states, they all pick and choose. Nobody wants to have all the clients. I know everyone thinks every insurance company just wants everybody, but they don't. They really would love to be able to cherry pick and ask you a few questions before they enroll you, but they're not allowed with Medicare Advantage. So every state has a different strength and weakness. United Healthcare, Humana, Anthem Blue Cross. Most people don't realize, by the way, Anthem is they're a franchise, right? Blue Cross Blue Shield is a franchise. If you go to different states, perfect example, Texas has Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas. It's a
Mm-hmm.
completely different company, not connected to Anthem. Anthem has 18 states. So they're the largest franchise of Blue Cross Blue Shield, but there's so many other ones out there. All they do is basically buy into a network and use the logo, and then they design the plans the way they want to. But Humana, United Healthcare, Anthem, and then definitely Aetna would probably be the main ones that I would say most clients are going to look at those. Doing it for 18 years, the one thing I could say, all those companies operate very differently inside United Healthcare, and I hate to say bad things about anybody, but if you follow their rules, you never have a problem, and you'll love them. But if you ever have a problem, forget about it. They're a disaster. I have quite a bit of business with them, and I'm just number blah 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 when I call
Mm-hmm.
them. I get
Mm-hmm.
no help. Nobody cares. Anthem, Aetna, Cigna, who just turned into HealthSpring, Humana, definitely. Those companies, I know so many people. Even if I have a customer that's in Alaska, I can get help. I can get connected to the broker manager in Alaska, and they'll say, "Oh, you know Jim? Oh, great, yeah, yeah. He said you had a problem with so and so. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it." I don't have to wait online ever because I've been doing it for so long. That's part of the reason why I get more involved in customer service than ever. I've now gotten concierge phone numbers for most of the carriers. I text a lot of people. I don't even have to. I just send them the message. Boom, boom. Next thing you know, somebody's calling you up and saying, "Hey Jim, Paul told me you were having a problem with this bill or this doctor. We're going to get on the phone and we're going to call them together right now, and we're going to smooth it out." That type of stuff. So that's why I like some of those bigger carriers because I just have a better relationship with them because I've been with them forever.
Yeah.
Local carriers, like I said, we don't really have problems with them. They
Mm-hmm.
know that
Mm-hmm.
if they have a couple of people that chirp a bad anything, they're done because they don't have enough business. Whereas
Sure.
United Healthcare, you could scream on the top of the Empire State Building that they stink and
Yeah.
nobody cares. They're still going to get them because everybody recognizes the name and they've been around forever.
Yeah.
So it's much different when you have millions and millions of clients versus having 1,000 clients,
Sure.
right?
Sure. Sure. Well, tell me, during this advantage period, or this open enrollment period, what's the biggest mistake that you see seniors make during this time? Is
That's
there,
easy. They answer the phone. They answer the phone. Somebody's calling from Pakistan, the Philippines, or South Africa now is a new one that they're calling from.
yeah.
And these third party marketing companies, they don't have licenses, so they'll say almost anything to you on the phone. And their goal is to transfer you to somebody else, but they're going to keep saying free stuff. So, yeah, Jim, this is so and so for Medicare Solutions. Just wanted to let you know we're going to have agents in your area, and we see that you're on XYZ policy, and then it's usually wrong, and they'll get you. You'll say, no, I'm on this one. So now you just gave them the nugget, right? Because nobody wants to be wrong. No, I'm on the Humana plan. Oh, you're on the Humana plan. Okay. Well, would you be interested in if we could show you a plan that had dental, vision, hearing, gym memberships, over the counter, and even transportation in your area? Because I see a few plans that are, and we can have an agent either stop by or we can even transfer you one right now. It's no cost at all. And of course, there's no obligation. And then you get transferred. And the next thing you know, you're speaking to an agent who paid $75 to $100 to speak to you. They only have one goal. I just spent $75. I got to get Jim on a new plan.
Uh-huh.
I don't make any money for saying, hey, Jim, let me tell you something, bud. Whoever your agent was, or if you chose that plan yourself, you did a great job because I can't get you anything better. They're
Yeah.
not going to do it, unfortunately. And that's the biggest mistake. The phone is ringing nonstop this time of year because, as I said, us as agents, we can't send out direct mail. We can't do advertising online. None of that, other than to somebody brand new to Medicare, right? So if you're on Medicare already and someone's calling you, they know it's the open enrollment period. That's why they're calling you. Just
Don't,
like,
man, don't you feel like because there are guidelines that you can't advertise, that it really limits your ability to help people, to get information out to people? Because you know, I've reached out to you, of course, and of course, people are tuning into this podcast and can get this information. But it seems to me that, the big boys and girls can advertise on television and do all that, but it really puts a lot of people at a disadvantage. Do you agree with that?
yeah, I definitely do. We're always competing against these major carriers. Most of the television commercials that you're going to see on television are sponsored or signed off on by an Aetna, a Humana, United Healthcare, or WellCare, one of these billion-dollar corporations. They
Yeah.
have money behind it, and they send those calls to their agents. And it's a huge disadvantage because, number one, I'm not the type of person that sells the sizzle. I'm not walking to the restaurant making everyone smell my fajitas.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Mm-hmm.
constantly put out. If you go to my website, you'll see I have probably 500 blog posts. Every single one of them educational. None of them says click here to buy now or enroll. Nothing like that. I also have a YouTube channel where I try and put up as much educational content as possible. And education is not sexy, unfortunately. It might be the right thing, but it's just not sexy. So yeah, we're at a disadvantage when you're trying to be the good guy. So it definitely hurts the average person more. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't have a job. There would be nothing to fight if there was no Goliath. There'd be no David, right? So
Yeah.
we're just trying to you know help people as much as possible when we can. We get these mistakes because the good thing is Medicare's gotten to a point now where if you did make a mistake and you called up Medicare and said, hey, somebody told me some slimy stuff on the phone the other day, and I hate this plan. I want to go back to original Medicare. They would let you. You know, they're really, really cracking down now on the call centers at the insurance companies. It's these third-party marketing companies that are offshore, where they're not recording their calls. They're not
Mm-hmm.
sending them for compliance checks or anything like that. Those are the ones that are really causing the biggest headaches in our world, and they're starting to work on that now too. So, the last conference I was at, the CMS guidelines were saying we're going to start going after the agents that buy those calls. So, if you buy a call from a third-party marketing organization, you better make sure they're recording every single word of it, and you better have all your calls recorded, every conversation. Because if you don't, you're gonna get fined, number one, and then next, it's a two-strike deal. Next thing you know, you won't be able to offer Medicare anymore. So they're working on it, but it's a huge problem, and there's so many other problems going on. I don't feel like it's a huge focus. They've been working on this for about 5 years now,
Yeah.
You're old enough, and you said 71. You saw the Joe Namath commercials that were on, I'm sure, back in the
Yeah.
day. The Dan
Yeah.
Marinos, William Shatner. All these guys act like they're on Medicare. Not one of them is got a Medicare Advantage plan, but they
Hmm.
all, they all portray it. And let's face it,
Yeah. They're actors. They're
you
getting
know,
paid to do it, right?
we think that they're. I love Joe Namath, so if he says it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Anybody that thinks that is crazy. But that's J.J. Walker, another one from Good Times. He's big on the New York area. These guys just constantly push this type of nonsense, and those commercials are gone now. You won't see them anywhere.
Huh.
They've changed them up drastically. They got sued 3 straight years before they finally just took them off the air. They kept cutting some words, adding some more fine print at the bottom. You'd see the commercial fine print would be half the page.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, it's really fast. Somebody
Yeah.
talks and, and you can't understand a word they say. How, for people that are working, trying to find the best plan, how can you tell if the agent really truly has their best interest in mind? Is there one tip you would give people on how they could tell? Do they do it by looking at testimonials, uh, asking their neighbors? What's
Yeah, it's a combination of things. Definitely, I'm a big proponent of checking out their digital footprint now. As we've gotten to 2026, if you don't have a website, I just find it odd, right?
yeah,
Doesn't mean you couldn't be a good agent, but I just think it's a little shady. You're cheap. You just want to do enrollments, and you're thinking of numbers. So like I said, I put all kinds of educational content on my website. I've even constantly revamped it year after year after surveying my own clients and say, hey, can you take a look at this? Is this easy to read? Is this easy to understand? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? So back to your question without getting off topic, definitely take a look at the website. The agent doesn't have to be in your state or your hometown. You're going to see online, you're going to see reviews, you're going to see that their Google My Business page is active with tips and advice. You're going to see lots of images. You're going to see care. Like most good agents are smart, they're going to post pictures of their happy clients,
mm-hmm,
or they're going to boast about their reviews. They're definitely going to be answering questions. You should have Q&A on every page. So at the bottom, if you're looking at a Medicare Advantage person's page, at the bottom, it should say, here's the 10 most common questions that people ask at a minimum. And it
yeah,
should be the same for Part D, the same for Medicare supplements. My page, I have that on the bottom for every one of those topics, as well as another 100 questions just for a Q&A page. And then
mm-hmm,
I have a glossary page, and then I have a video page, and then I have a blog page. It's a little overkill, but everybody likes to learn different ways.
yeah,
So I feel like if they're putting effort in,
yeah,
that's one of the main things. They
yeah,
should also not be asking you, okay, so when do you want to enroll, right?
mm-hmm,
We should be
mm-hmm,
having a conversation about where you're at, what you need to do. Now, obviously, if we're February 20th and you told me that you're going to be turning 65 in March, then that's a different thing. At the end, I'm going to say, hey, Jim, we need to make sure that we get all this done in a timely fashion, because if we don't get it done by the 28th, you're not going to be able to start March 1st.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that type of thing, that's fine. But I like to do things, especially now in the digital age. I like to have at least a couple conversations before we get into the enrollment. You'll be surprised how many folks, after I show them a Medicare Advantage plan and a Medicare supplement plan, they think they're both Medicare supplements, right? Because there's so much jargon. So listen, this is a Medicare supplement, right? Like, no, that's a Medicare Advantage plan, also Part C. Okay, well, how much is this going to cost? Like I said in the beginning, this plan zero premium. That's the first thing that we mentioned. After you talk to somebody for 20 minutes and all you're going through is numbers, it's very hard for them to keep up with it. So my preferred method is we talk about it. I email you if I have to. If you don't have email, I will be happy to mail it to you. But I want you to look at it too, right? Especially if we're not sitting across the kitchen table. Then we have another conversation, because now you have a better idea. You've held it in your hand. You actually looked at it. Now you can ask some intelligent questions. Most people don't even know what questions to ask. So that's where the big problem comes in. If you don't understand the difference between Medicare Advantage and Medicare Supplement, which I would say probably 65% of the people have no idea,
or more, yeah,
and it could be even more. And that causes a problem, because some states, if you wanted a Medicare supplement, you might not be able to get it if you picked a Medicare Advantage plan up, and you had it, and you were 3 years later, you're like, I want a supplement. I thought this was a supplement the whole time. And then now you have to go through underwriting and they look at your height, your weight, do you smoke, do you take prescriptions, all these things. And now your rate's climbing up, or
Hmm.
they can decline you altogether, ride or out conditions. None of these things are a good deal. So
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt your book helps to add legitimacy to what you do. I mean, anybody can write a book. I mean, that's easy enough. Um, but your website is pretty thorough. And of course, I've watched your YouTube videos. They're very well done. And so people can really check out your background as I did before I, decided to spend time with you today. So when I get to the end of a podcast like this, and we only have so much time, I always ask my guest um, if there's one question I fail to ask, what question should I have asked you that is really important that I didn't? Is there anything?
there's two things that we didn't really touch on. One, for a lot of folks, Medicare is not automatic. It used to be automatic, right? It was hand in hand with Social Security. You're getting 100% of your benefits at 65. So a lot of people are like, yeah, I want my Medicare. I'm going to retire at 65. So people need to realize that if you're not claiming Social Security, you have to take action. And that's what's causing a lot of penalties and a lot of people having a month where they have to either buy Cobra or have a gap in coverage because they're like, okay, well, I'm going to get on Medicare now. I'm 67 years old. And they don't realize that they had Part A. Now you got to enroll in Part B. And it's going to take weeks for this to happen. I have to get a special form signed by the employer that says I had coverage for those 2 years. And it just causes a lot. It causes a lot of issues versus I'm taking Social Security. So guess what? Boom, my card comes in the mail within 3 months before my birthday. That's very simple. And that's the way it was for the first probably 10 years or so of my career. Never even had to talk about that. So that's a big one. The next thing, people love to talk to, their friends, their family members, their neighbors about their plans. And there's nothing wrong with talking about it. But a lot of people get hung up on, I get people that call me all the time for referrals and they'll say, I want the same plan as Jim.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even introduce themselves yet. Oh, I'm like, who am I speaking to? Oh, this is Mike, Jim's friend. He said you were great, whatever. He loves his plans. I just want the same one. I don't even want to think about it. And that's a terrible move. We're all
Yeah.
different. Unless you guys are taking the same exact prescriptions, have the same lifestyle, same budget, same doctors, it's a recipe for disaster. I talk to people all the time, and they'll call me back and they'll say, I was speaking to my neighbor and they said, and I was like, oh, okay. Are you going to let your neighbor enroll you in the plan?
Yeah.
No, okay. So then trust me, I'm not trying to pull a fast one on you. If I told you this, this, and this, I promise you it's this, this, and this. There's no reason to play games. As I said earlier, we don't get paid a lot per person. So I try and treat everybody. I mean, I know people talk about treating people like family. I treat people better than family. I mean, I love my family, but I want to make sure that everyone has a superstar experience with me because I need people to refer people to me because of all those giant companies that do all this major marketing, make it very difficult for a little guy to show up somewhere on Google. So you say, oh, what about this guy? They spend millions of dollars a month during the annual enrollment period to bury every agent they possibly can down, down, down the board. And Google's pay for clicks, so they love it. They'll take your money and they'll bury all the little guys. They don't care. They say they do, but they really don't care
Yeah.
how much we help and how much we would go bend over backwards for somebody. You'll never have to wait on hold for an hour to speak to me. You'll always get a call back. Very simple. That's where the independent agents, it's like the local hardware store versus the Home Depots and all that stuff. You're going to get better service most of the time at the local one because they care.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line.
Yeah. They need you. They need you, and they'll spend time with you. There's no doubt. So if someone like me gave you a call and wanted you to review the plans that I have, is it just a normal phone call to you for a consultation? Is that what you would recommend to the guests that are listening to this?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the
Okay.
easiest way to do it. The other way, you can go on the website, just click on the button that says free consultation. A calendar will open up, and you pick the day and time that you want to speak to me. I like that way too because it avoids the whole phone tag thing. Because let's face it, we don't always answer the phone.
Yeah.
And we're going to screen calls in this day and age because so many calls, right?
Isn't
There's
that
so
the
many people
truth?
trying to sell you something, and they can buy a local telephone number now and look like they're right there in your hometown of Harris, Texas, or
Yeah.
wherever.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because you don't want to be sold and you don't want to talk to that person. So
Yeah.
sometimes booking an appointment on the calendar is the best thing to do.
Okay. Well, Paul, I appreciate this conversation. We could probably talk a lot longer, but I'm hoping that for those questions we didn't answer, those topics that I didn't bring up, that people will take the initiative to give you a call or to go to your calendar and set up an appointment time to meet with you and get the lowdown, get the information from you. I feel that you're going to get people the real deal, the right information, and not just try to sell them something like so many people do. So I want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here. Your contact information is going to be on the links that I send out, and everybody will know how to get a hold of you. And Paul, if there's anything I can do to help you, reach out to me. I appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Yeah,